I'm here with my beautiful, incredible wife, Amanda Robbins. Nice to
Thanks.
have you.
Thanks, love it.
Um, we just got done teaching the Core 4 challenge for this week on one of my absolute favorite topics. The reason it's my favorite is so often we're faced with challenges in our emotions and challenges in our relationships, and one of the hardest things is being able to communicate when you're frustrated. And so, real quick in the chat box, how many of you have ever been totally frustrated, upset, hurt, misunderstood, not seen, not appreciated, and on a 0 to 10 scale, 0 being horribly, 10 being incredibly, how well were you able to communicate in that moment of peak frustration? So I'd,
Great
I'd
question.
love to know on a 0 to 10 scale in the chat box, how well were you able to communicate during a peak moment of frustration? And then my wife's going to tell you a little bit about what we were chatting about today and how important it is to learn frameworks like these, but more importantly, to be willing to try it on for size.
Before I talk about if we get into what we talked about today, like that framework, before we do, I just want to share how important it is in a relationship to try things on for size. Sometimes breaking an old pattern is really uncomfortable, right? We're so used to doing things the way we've always done them, excuse me. And whether that was something taught to us or that we're modeling from someone else, we fail to challenge the pattern, to question it or examine it and see, does this pattern actually serve me? Is this adding more love, joy, peace, happiness, love to my relationship? We don't challenge it. And then we wonder why we keep running into these same problems over and over and over again. So when we can choose to examine our thoughts, examine our patterns, and if it's not serving us, then to try something out, something different, right? Seeking out some advice or coaching or training. And so that's what we shared today was a framework that I remember when Jarek first did this one specific framework, I was like, just stop, like just speak to me, right? Because it was so clunky and uncomfortable, and he was so committed. It starts with this one, examining the pattern, and then two, choosing your relationship above all, above your comfort level, right? Of having to get things right and being willing to, navigate some uncharted waters in a way that that when we try this new thing out, it's going to allow us to grow and evolve in such a way that we can actually love better and really experience more love, joy, and passion and intimacy and closeness in our relationships, right?
Yeah.
And so I love this so much because he was so persistent and vulnerable, frankly. And hey, I know it sounds weird. I was like, it sounds robotic. And he was like, I know it does. And I was upset, right? So it's kind of hard. He's like trying to fix it. I'm like, don't do it that way. And he's like, but just bear with me. I'm trying something new. And he did it a couple times, and it was uncomfortable at first for both of us, honestly. And what's so beautiful is that more he tried, the better he got at it. And the more I tried, the better I got at it because it wasn't comfortable or natural for me either. You just want to speak from your heart and share what's going on. But here's the thing. Sometimes the things that we say can really hurt someone. And we don't necessarily mean them. And we haven't really thought about them. We haven't thought about our patterns or our thinking or the things we say. But if we know that there is a framework that is proven time and time, tested over decades and thousands of couples, that just works to bring down our defenses and to bring us closer, why not try it out, right? And so I'm so grateful that you were willing and able to do that. And we both kind of dropped our ego and dropped our old ways, and we're like, all right, let's try this out. And it turns out it has been one of the things that has completely elevated our relationship and our love and our connection, even when we're going through super yucky stuff and we want to say, forget all the tools and just like, just let that animal brain take over to try to protect us and defend us. But instead, when we can just collect ourselves, like take a breath and just say, I'm going to use this framework, it allows us to take down our defenses and come so much closer together and actually row in the same direction, to actually empathize, to actually repair and get back to closeness and intimacy and love, instead of the battle, whether it's a power struggle or it's I want to be right or whatever it is, or some hurt feelings. Doesn't even matter anymore. It's so much about like, what happened and what do you need and how can we fix it, and togetherness, right? Instead of defending, it's about bringing you together. Okay, so that was the preface, but if you want to share the framework, that works too.
We teach the framework in our class. The concept behind this is I've taught this framework in lots of places, and it's only 3 steps. The challenge is, if you don't practice it in an environment where people are going to champion you, cheer for you, support you, and challenge you to be better, then what'll happen is often you'll try it in the real world and you'll get some negative feedback, some resistance, some pushback, and then you'll just quit. And I can tell you that from experience, because we just taught this in a group of people who are all here to support each other and all here to learn and all here to, not just go through it, but grow through it and work our way to make progress. And what ended up happening was someone would try, and we gave them the steps. Like, here's step 1, here's step 2, here's step 3. And they do step 1 and mess it up. And then they'd go, okay, maybe just pick someone else for the day. And I was like, wait a minute. We're all calm, might be a little nervous, but we're calm, relaxed. We're here supporting each other. Imagine trying to do this when you're completely pissed off, frustrated, angry, overwhelmed, exhausted, tired, upset, hurt. And you're going to try to think that you're magically going to show up and do it right then? Like, you might be a little nervous now doing it in front of a group, but a little nervous is way different than completely seeing red or frustrated or angry or upset. And so the thought becomes, have you found a place to practice the tools that are necessary to build the life that you want?
Yeah.
Have you found a place that people support you? Have you found a place that people are willing to challenge you? Have you found a place that people are willing to give you both positive feedback and clear ways of improvement? And I'll give you an example of the internet. If we were trying to test a tool here, this is the type of feedback we're getting. You are annoying. I'm telling you, if this is the first time I was ever doing something, I'd be like, well, screw you guys. I'm just going to go help other people then. But I've been doing this for 20 years. And so I've gotten all kinds of feedback over the years. And I just kind of shrug and go, okay, blocked. Next, who else can we help? There's 8 billion humans. That's not my human. That's okay. But what's funny is that human shows up to every time we go live. So very curious on why they keep showing up. And so this thought of, have you found the right environment where someone can help support you through the skill set building and challenge you to get better, so that at a point you get to the place where you have enough practice? One of my friends from the Navy SEALs taught me, under chaotic conditions, under stress, under overwhelm, you fall to the level of your training. Have you found an environment that you can regularly do the training in to build the emotional and mental muscles, so that when you get tested in real life, you've built the fortitude and the resilience internally to navigate it? I find it hard to love my nervousness even in my trauma. That's okay. It's practice. Most of us aren't born to magically have that natural resilience. We have to work through it. We have to go through it, and we have to grow through it. Everyone will have to go through it at some point in their life. The choice to grow through it, to actually improve, to make progress, to get better, that's choice. So going through the process, life is going to make all of us go through it at some point. Growing through it is a conscious choice we must sit down and make if we want to. And I'll tell you the truth, not everyone makes that choice. Not everyone wants to grow through it. People would rather give up. They'd rather blame. They'd rather be frustrated. They'd rather be hurt. They'd rather be upset about it. They'd rather be angry about it. They'd rather be annoyed. They'd rather choose all these different emotions instead of saying, hey, This is life giving me an opportunity to grow. And if I'm going to grow, then you know what? Now is my moment. And there's a phrase I use, which came to me by accident. And it was when I was trying to use this framework to communicate with my wife. We were both very upset. And I was like, oh, there's 35 years of research on over 3,000 couples that identified a very specific framework on how to communicate right now that'll actually help. And I was like, shit, what were the steps? And I'm trying to remember the steps. And I'm like, oh, and I started to use the step, and she stopped me literally 3 words into it and said, you sound like a robot. If you got to go, love, you can jump. She said, you sound like a robot. And I was like, a robot? What are you talking about? I'm trying to do this right. And she said, you sound like a robot. Just stop. Talk to me like a human being. And I went, ugh. And something clicked in my head. I said, you know what? Here's what's interesting. Can I be horrible at this long enough to have a chance to be good at it? And can I be good at it long enough to have a chance to be great at it for us? I believe with 35 years of research, 3,000 couples, this works. Not just for us, but for people. When you're upset, if you use these frameworks, it works. Can I be horrible at this long enough so that someday I can be great at this for us? And she looked at me and made this little noise. She went, oh, that's really sweet. I was like, I wasn't trying to be sweet. I'm frustrated right now. And I just need space that I can actually practice. And the only way I can practice is by actually going through it with you. And if we're going to grow through this, if we're going to get better as a couple, then in the moment when I sound like a robot, I just need you to stick with me and give me a little space to try so that eventually this can become something we're good at. I hear that's a new concept for me. I've always been encouraged to only go through it and just sit with it. Yeah, choose to grow through it. How you grow through it is, instead of just going through it, you might say 3 things if you want to grow. Number 1, what's working? What is working right now? Number 2, what is not working? Here's what's working right now. And you might have 2 or 3 or 4 things written down. And here's what's not working. How you feel or what's going on or the part that isn't lining up. Okay, here's the third question. And this is where all the growth comes from. What can I do better next round? That's where growth is. How can I improve? What's one thing I can do better the next time I feel this way? What's one thing I can do better the next time I'm in this situation? What's one thing I can do better next time I'm faced with this misunderstanding or feelings or frustration or whatever it is I'm growing through in the moment? Number 1, what's working? There's always something that's working. Number 2, what's not working? Your brain will rapid fire in this question for some reason. Our brain's great at it. And then number 3, what can I do better? If you use those 3 questions in a situation that you're trying to grow through, you will actually grow through it, not just go through it. Going through it, we're all going to get pushed through a situation in life. Growing is a choice. How you make that choice is by asking better questions when you're in the situation. Anyways, so going back to this conversation, we were just teaching this in our class, and I've been practicing this tool for 15 years now. So sometimes I forget how challenging it is when you learn a new tool to just remember follow the 3 steps. And so I taught it really quickly in today's class. And my original plan was to split everyone into groups and let them go practice. I said, before we do that, let's just practice here as a whole. And what I learned is many people heard this tool for the first time today in their whole life. And in even a strong, supportive, creative, safe environment for us to practice, a bunch of people struggled through it. And I went, uh-oh, shoot. And then I teased them. I said, we got to really, really practice this. We got to make sure this is an environment. So we have group coaching tomorrow where we're going to practice repetitively going through the 3 steps again and again and again and again. I just wanted to put this out there. If you're someone who's ever been in a relationship where you've lost your cool and you've gotten frustrated and you blamed or used you statements and could not for the life of you communicate effectively, this might be a great place for you to come and practice with us. If you're interested in learning tools like this, please go to performancecoachuniversity.com. We teach these tools. We also teach them in our Core 4 Challenge program. If you want to check that out, it's the core4challenge.com. Anyways, nice to see you all. Thank you for showing up. I will see you all tomorrow for another live like this. Have a